everybody. Welcome back to Reign of Horror. I am your host, Nerd Coast Nostra. I hope everyone is having a great day. Been a great day thus far here at Reign of Horror, far better than we deserve, but nonetheless, we are still here, still 6 feet above ground, which is always a good thing. Got some interesting updates to cover off on today's episode. We got some news on a new Cape Fear TV series that's going to be in the works. Stephen King is back at it, going to be releasing a new novel. Wonder how long it will be before we get a movie version or a TV series version of it. And then we got some interesting news on The Substance, the film The Substance. If you haven't seen that already, highly recommend it. However, I won't spoil it because again, it's still fairly new. And I say fairly new, meaning it's been out for a while, been out for a minute. However, it hasn't been out on streaming that long. It was because again, we covered this on a previous episode where it was exclusive to a specific platform, then eventually got released onto to be purchased on Amazon. I think you can rent it, but I know it can be purchased, and I think Apple as well was the only other place you could purchase it. Outside of that, you really can't view it anywhere else as far as on any other platforms. I'd imagine at some point it might get out there to other platforms, but it seems like it's a pretty exclusive already. So sounds like it's going to be pretty limited unless we get a physical copy, which I haven't seen any news on a physical copy for The Substance. But regardless, still worth a watch. I would highly recommend. Again, won't give any spoilers. I've covered this in a previous episode where I felt that it had me for 99% of the movie, and that last 1-2% that towards the end of the film, it just lost me. It just, the way they ended it felt like they were doing great. The writers, everyone was spot on with the script, and it seems like they got to the end and said, you know what, it's a Friday afternoon, I want to go home early, I can't think of anything else, so this is how we're gonna end this movie, and that's what it feels like, and that's unfortunate. I wish they would have ended it a bit better than they did, but overall it was still a great movie. Very different than anything we've seen thus far in the horror genre, especially this year. It was a nice breath of fresh air. So if you haven't checked it out and you're able to, highly recommend it. But we have an update on The Substance. So before we jump into the details, if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Definitely helps us out. And drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think. Let us know if there's anything you'd like us to cover, or if you've heard of something new. Or some interesting updates happening in the horror space, let us know, and we would love to cover it. So, all right, so let's get into our first topic of today's episode, and that is Javier Bardem starring in Cape Fear TV series from producers Spielberg and Scorsese. Now that right there, if that doesn't get you kind of hyped already for what this could turn out to be, how good this could be, I don't know what will, right? Yes, Spielberg and Scorsese are just producers, but they're going to be involved with it, and Javier is going to be starring in it. We're already off to a good start. So let's jump into the details here. The 1957 novel, The Executioners by John D. MacDonald, was adapted twice for the big screen, with both 1962's Cape Fear and 1991's Cape Fear. And the tale is next headed to the small screen for a television series from writer-showrunner Nick Acosta. THR reports today that Javier Bardem, it was in Monsters, will star in the brand new Cape Fear television series, which hails from executive producers Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg. Bardem is set to play the villain of the piece, the sinister Max Cady. Apple Plus has already greenlit the project with a series order. That's good. The Hollywood Reporter notes, quote, the 10-episode series, we're going to come back to that, The 10-episode series is described as a tense Hitchcockian thriller and an examination of America's obsession with true crime in the 21st century. The broad strokes of the story and the characters remain the same as the film versions, as happily married attorneys Amanda and Steve Bowden face a growing storm, with Max Cady to be played by Bardem. A notorious killer from their past gets out of prison. The new series is being produced by UCP and Amblin Television. The 1962 adaptation of MacDonald's novel was helmed by J. Lee Thompson and starred Gregory Peck, Robert Mitchum, and Polly Bergen. Martin Scorsese's own 1991 feature, also titled Cape Fear, starred Robert De Niro, Nick Nolte, Jessica Lange, and Juliette Lewis. Which I think the 1991 version, most people, regardless if you're part of the horror community or not, most people know of the 1991 version. I know not too many people are aware of the 1962 version, and if you weren't, now you are, and I would recommend checking it out. I'm always a fan of checking out what the originals were, especially if something's been remade, rebooted, whatever term you want to give it, re-imaged. But again, I always like going back to the originals and seeing what those films were like. So if you haven't checked it out and you weren't aware of the 1962 version, track it down and give it a watch. Niga and Tasca, if I'm even pronouncing that correctly, previously created the shows Channel Zero, A Friend of the Family, The Act, and brand new Cherry Flavor, and he also worked on Hannibal and Chucky. Side note: we all know how I feel about Chucky. I'm not a fan of Chucky. I'm not a fan of Child's Play, but that's just me. And that's where it ends off. But yeah, I mean, this is some good news. I mean, again, if the 1991 version, I enjoy the 62 version. I love the 1991 version. But the fact that we're getting a TV series up to some more modern version of the story and the characters is going to be great. And I'm coming back to this quote up here. The 10-episode series, that in itself, I am glad to see it's going to be at least 10 episodes. The fact that, and I've talked about this before on so many other episodes, we've seen so many TV series, whether it's a one and done, whether we know it's going to be multiple seasons. They've been sticking to this 8-episode format, and it always feels like by the time we get to episode 7, we're like, wait a minute, there's not going to be enough time to wrap this up. Now, the rest of the episode 7 and all of 8 is going to feel rushed, and it typically either does, or episode 8 just turns out to be one long cliffhanger, just prepping you for the next season. So I'm glad to see we're getting 10 episodes. Those 2 extra episodes, I think, do help. It does help to play out the story much cleaner, much concise. I do hope, though, that they use the 10 episodes fully. Don't use it as hey, let's do 3 episodes. Episode 4 will be a filler episode where it's kind of like a throwaway, and then we'll continue on. Utilize every episode as fully and to the capacity that you can, especially with a story like this. I think you're going to need a full 10 episodes to really do it justice. But I'm very excited to see who the players are thus far involved in this. And who's going to be starring in it. I think this is going to be a great series to check out. And once we get more information on this, we will make sure to cover it in a future episode, especially once we have some dates around this, and once the rest of the cast kind of rounds out. We'll definitely be doing a review of the show. As each episode comes out, we'll give it a watch, and we'll come back with a standalone episode, just doing a non-spoiler review, and then we'll do a spoiler review. So make sure you keep an eye out for that in the future. All right, so let's move on to our next topic. Stephen King's next horror novel, Never Flinch, releasing in May 2025. So we got about 6.5 months before we get this, so roughly 6.5 months. So let's check out the details. Stephen King's next novel has been announced and detailed by Entertainment Weekly this afternoon. The outlet reports that King's Never Flinch will be released on May 27th, 2025. EW details, quote, Never Flinch features intertwining storylines, one about a killer on a diabolical revenge mission and another about a vigilante stalking a feminist celebrity speaker, end quote. A particular note, frequent King character Holly Gibney will return in the new novel. Here's the official plot synopsis. So we are going to check. Normally I don't check out these synopsises or summaries, especially when it's dealing with a movie or a TV series, because I usually like to leave that from a non-spoiler perspective. If we're going to look at a trailer or look at any clips, I usually try to avoid this. But with this just being a novel at this point, most of us are going to read a synopsis of a book that we're going to check out. So it says here, quote, when the Buckeye City Police Department receives a disturbing letter from a person threatening to kill 13 innocents and one guilty in an act of atonement of the needless death of an innocent man, Detective Izzy Janus has no idea what to think. Are 14 citizens about to be slaughtered in an unhinged act of retribution? Quote here, as the investigation unfolds, Izzy realizes that the letter writer is deadly serious, and she turns to her friend Holly Gibney for help. So we go on to a few more quotes. Another quote here. Meanwhile, controversial and outspoken women's rights activist Kate McKay is embarking on a multi-state lecture tour, drawing peaked venues of both fans and detractors. Someone who vehemently opposes Kate's message of female empowerment is targeting her and disrupting her events. At first, no one is hurt, but the stalker is growing bolder, and Holly is hired to be Kate's bodyguard. A challenging task with a headstrong employer and a determined adversary driven by wrath and his belief in his own righteousness. We have a cover here. I think this might probably be, see here. Yeah, this looks like this is going to be the cover. And I think that's where the article ends off. So, we've seen many of Stephen King's work brought to life in feature film. Obviously, this one's not coming out for another 6.5 months. The book, anyways, May 2025. So I wonder if it's gonna be if they're gonna wait until after the book releases, see how well the book does, and then that's typically what would happen, and then. If it does very well and it's, the fans love it and it's popular, then they would more than likely, I'm sure a studio would reach out to Stephen King and say, hey, we want to either buy the rights or we want to, come into some contract agreement to use the book's story to do a feature film or TV series. So, based on the synopsis, based on the premise, I think this could be an interesting story. I feel, though, based on the synopsis, though, it would make more sense as a TV series versus a feature film. Again, you have this, you're projecting this stalker that's going to be trying to, obviously going after these 14 citizens. That seems like something you would want to tell over a series of, again, roughly 10 episodes. I want 10 episodes if you're going to do TV series. Again, I'm not a fan of the 8 episodes. I think you could do it justice that way. Maybe like a limited series, like a one and done, a 10 episode series based on this book. I think this story, based on just what we know, might be just too much to cram into a 2 hour and 15 minute, 2 hour and 20 minute movie. I don't think you'd have enough character development based on, who these citizens are that are being attacked or stalked. I think with 10 episodes, if you did about 48 minutes to an hour each, I think you would do it a lot more justice. You could get more of the story out, get more of the backgrounds out, and then, why is this person doing what they're doing a little bit more in detail than what we've read here, but also some of the story as to why these 14 individuals are being targeted. So, we'll definitely look to see what the reviews are on this book, and we'll follow it to see if it results in anything. And it may not result in anything. Not every book results in anything, but again, Stephen King's had a history of his work kind of turning into feature films, so this might be something that we could see in the future. More to come. All right, moving into our final topic of today's episode. The Substance still has the juice at the global box office. Let's check this out here. After cutting its teeth in the streaming space, the art house distributor Mubi. So Mubi was the one who has the exclusive, where it is streaming again, as I mentioned, outside of Amazon. I think you can get it on Apple. I know for a fact you can get it, purchase it on Amazon, but from a streaming perspective, Mubi is the only place you can stream it on. Couldn't have hoped for a better launch in the theatrical market space than The Substance, the well-reviewed body horror film by director Cordelia Fairgate. Originally set up at Universal, the project was taken over by Mubi, who gave it a splashy release in several major territories such as the United States and the United Kingdom. and walked away with a solid box office haul to show for it. The Substance is nearing perhaps its final global box office milestone. After having forged a remarkable connection with audiences despite its edgy nature. According to Deadline, the film has so far grossed $65.5 million worldwide, with the majority of revenue coming from overseas markets. The Substance debuted in Farragut's home country of France recently, after having premiered in competition at this year's Cannes Film Festival. The movie ended up the movie ended up winning the Best Screenplay award for Farragut, who broke out some years ago with the revolutionist rape revenge film Revenge. The Substance follows a fading Hollywood actress who takes an underground drug that creates a younger version of herself. Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley play the two versions of the character Elizabeth Sparkle. So let's now we're going to kind of just jump into some of the more details here. The movie cost reported $17 million to produce. Movie required it for $12 million, and it's domestically grossed $15 million already. Unnaturally high. Let's see here. So it has a B cinema score, which is saying it's unnaturally high for a horror film. It also holds a 75% audience score on the aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, in addition to 90% critic score. Let's see. We have more numbers here. I thought we might have global numbers, but maybe we don't. More will likely be which is they're talking about Demi Moore, will likely be in consideration for the Oscars as well. The Academy has become more lenient towards genre films in recent years, after having taken a holier than thou attitude towards them for decades. The watershed moment came first when Lord of the Rings trilogy garnered attention at the Oscars 2 decades ago, and more recently when The Shape of Water and Parasite ended up sweeping the awards. While horror cinema still receives somewhat frosty treatment, The Substance might just break the trends. And that's just where it ends. So I hope. So that's the last part here. I've said this before in other episodes, and specifically about Longlegs that came out earlier this year. There's been a big push by the director and that team on Longlegs to get it nominated for many awards. They're trying to get it as much eyes on it, as much attention as possible to get it nominated come award season. And I said it with Longlegs, and I'll definitely say it with Substance. I hope these do work out. I hope they at least get nominated, and I think it'd be great if, in this case, like if Demi Moore were to win an Oscar for this role. It'd be well deserved. She played this role. It was a phenomenal role for her. Again, great movie. It was just that last 5 to 8 minutes of the movie, which really didn't have anything to do with her. I mean, with her character. I mean, when I say her character, I mean like her on-screen work. The last 5 to 8 minutes, it has nothing to do with her. I do hope, though, that this does start opening up the doors with Longlegs, with this one, and some other ones. We all know Nosferatu, which is coming out on Christmas this year, is more than likely. I would be shocked, based on everything we've heard on early screenings, early reviews. I would be shocked if that one isn't going to be up for a number of awards come award season. So I'm glad our community, I'm glad our genre is starting to get some attention, is starting to get out there, and it's getting recognized for the work. And more of these big names in Hollywood are starting to partake in the genre, right? It's not being kind of frowned upon, like, oh, I'm not going to do horror, or I'm not going to do that type of genre. I'm glad they're starting to come on board and looking at some of these ideas and saying, yeah, let's do it. Let's give this a try. And it's turning out to be a success on many fronts, whether it's at the box office or starting to have the genre in conversations for award season. Again, I think that's nothing but trending up for us. So I do hope this works out for this film and all those involved. I would like to see this, along with Longlegs and many others that we've had this year, somehow make it into that conversation for award season. They're all due. So, all right, everyone, that is going to do it for tonight's episode. I appreciate you taking a few moments out of your day to spend it with me and to spend it here at Reign of Horror. It is greatly appreciated. If you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It definitely helps us out. And drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think and if there's anything you would like to see us cover in the future. Otherwise, we will see you at the next one. Peace.